Everyone has a story to tell, and everyone's story has the power to transform someone else's life. That's why it's so important to share our inspirational stories with those who most need to hear them. But a lot of folks just have no idea where to begin, or they feel blocked from beginning at all. Maybe they don't feel naturally gifted at storytelling. Maybe they don't know which stories are appropriate to share. Maybe they're paralyzed by shame or the fear of retribution. Maybe they think their story is too ordinary or too out there or too fill in the blank to be worthy of sharing. I'm Dr. Adrienne McKeon, aka The Story Whisperer, and I'm here to help you overcome any sort of resistance you may have to sharing the story of your inspirational journey to the place you are now, and to begin the process of choosing, shaping, and delivering that story to the right audience. You can think of me as a muse with follow-through. You probably already know that good stories need a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you likely understand that you need some sort of tension, such as a primary obstacle or a big bad for the hero, that's you, to vanquish by the end. Maybe you've heard terms like exposition, climax, and resolution or denouement. You may even know what they refer to. But do you truly understand the importance of picking the right story to tell and the right audience to share it with? A story without an audience is like a seed with no soil to take root in. Most people start the process by picking a story and worry later about who it's for. In my experience, that's like going to a noisy, crowded party, standing in a corner and shouting your story just to see if anyone stops to listen, which is as ineffective as it is demoralizing. Instead, I'm going to teach you a technique today that will help you know which group to walk right up to before you launch into your story to make sure it's really going to resonate. This guided exercise is designed to help you discover the story that is most ripe for the telling and who exactly that story is for. Because the truth is that once you've lived a story, that story isn't for you anymore. It's for everyone who's still struggling to vanquish that same big bad you battled and lived to tell the tale. So please, grab a pen and paper and set it somewhere nearby so that you'll be able to easily reach it when we're finished and take notes on what you experienced. And if you aren't already, please get yourself into a comfortable position where you can safely close your eyes and relax for a bit. We'll start by taking a few deep breaths in a 4x4 pattern. We breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and breathe out for 4. And hold for 4 before breathing in again. Let's repeat that. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, and hold. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, and hold. We'll do this 4 times. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, and hold. Last time. In, hold, and out. Good. Now as you breathe in, I want you to envision colored light filling up your body. As you hold, I want you to see that light grow in intensity, getting brighter and more vivid. And as you release, watch that color spill out into the air around you. Notice the color of that light and the quality of it. The color that just came to me was teal, and it was sort of like sand through a mandala as it came into my body, kind of swirled around. We'll see what I get this time. was sort of a sea green mist with sparkles in it. All right, now when you're ready, I want you to see a door in front of you. Just notice what color that door is, what the handle looks like, and any other detail that comes to you. Just look at this door and realize that you've just come to the end of a long and arduous journey. It was not easy, and it was not always fun, but now that you're at the end of it, you're able to see it for the adventure it was. And you're delighted to be heading home, because that's what you know you will find on the other side of this door. A place that feels completely safe, entirely welcoming, and where you know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you belong. You reach out and grab the handle of your door. It feels cold in your hand, and as you open the door, a wave of warmth hits you. Not just physical warmth, but emotional warmth. It warms you all the way to your heart. This is your happy place. This is your safe space. This is home. Take a moment to look around and notice as much detail about this place as you can. Then go to a spot, maybe by the fire, maybe in a pool of sunlight, where you know you will feel very comfy and cozy. And make yourself at home. Kick off your shoes, take off your jacket, curl up or lie down, and just settle in. Just as you're getting nice and snug and settled, you realize you're not the only one here. Someone you love entirely and trust implicitly is here to welcome you. They are absolutely delighted to see you, and they pull you into a warm embrace and snuggle in next to you. We're all so relieved to know you made it through, they say to you. We knew you would, of course, but it was hard to watch you struggle like that. As they say this, you see that they're holding a crystal ball in which you understand they were able to watch you for the entire journey. We were rooting for you all the time, they tell you. It comforts you to know that even in the times when you felt most alone, you were not. Your supporters were there all along, even when you couldn't see or hear them. Your host points out a basin full of warm water nearby and encourages you to wash your hands, as supper will be ready soon. As you soak your hands in the warm, sudsy water, you notice just how much dirt and grime has been caked on your palms, and especially under your fingernails. You also notice that the water is turning a bit pink and realize you must be bleeding. But soon your hands are squeaky clean again, and your host hands you a soft white towel to dry them on. As you dry your hands on that nice white towel, you notice that it comes away clean. Nothing remains upon you from your journey. And that's when you smell it. Your all-time favorite comfort food, accompanied by your favorite beverage and indulgent dessert. You see that it's been prepared in advance and is now laid out before you. And as you dig in, ravenous from the long journey you've just completed, your host tells you, "It's so wonderful to have you back, but I have to tell you, there are still a lot of people back there, struggling to overcome the obstacles you just made it over." Sure enough, you look into the crystal ball, and you can see them there, at the base of that seemingly insurmountable obstacle, wondering how on earth they'll ever get through this. You remember what that was like, the feelings of fear and futility, the sense that your life was out of control and that you were powerless to stop the terrible events ahead. Your body begins to recreate those sensations. Your stomach tenses. You feel as though you might be sick. Your face flushes. You feel dizzy. And suddenly, you're overcome with a desire to go back and carry those people up and over the obstacle ahead. As if they can read your mind, your host shakes their head and says, "I'm afraid you can't save them. You can only empower them to get through this on their own." But how, you ask? By sharing your story, by offering hope, inspiration, and at least one possible roadmap out of the situation in which they find themselves. So you take yourself back to the beginning of your own story, back when you didn't even know there was an obstacle ahead, back when you believed you were in control of your own destiny and were so optimistic about the smooth, uncomplicated road ahead. You recall that first moment when you began to realize that something was amiss. That first incident that alerted you to the presence of the massive obstacle in the road ahead. You remember the period of denial and bargaining when you believed you could get around that obstacle, or that if you couldn't, that it wouldn't be so bad as all that. And then you remember that awful moment, that terrible rock bottom moment when you realized that the only way out was through, that it was going to be a very rough ride, and that you were going to have to go it more or less alone. You watch yourself in your memory, living in survival mode, not daring to dream of anything beyond just getting to the next day or even just the next moment. You feel yourself surrendering, finally, to the need for significant change. You reach out for help, maybe from an external source, maybe from a higher power within. And you watch yourself make the choice day in and day out to claw your way up and over that obstacle. Because you know the alternative is intolerable. You remember all the things you had to do, all the new skills you had to learn, all the new habits and commitments you had to make to yourself and to others in order to get up and over that thing. And then you remember the moment when you realized you were looking at that obstacle from a new angle, that you were at long last on the other side of it, and that while your journey was far from ended, you could finally rest and take in the breathtaking view. You had gained resilience, the most important commodity for a human to have. You look at your host and you say, "Yes, I will share my story. I'm ready now." They hand you that crystal ball, and you see those people who are still stuck back there, somewhere beyond denial but before resolution. You take a good, hard look at them. Who are those people? Where are they stuck? What is that obstacle looming ahead of them? When you're ready, I want you to open your eyes, grab your notebook and pen, and write down the answer to those 3 questions in as much detail as possible. I'll give you a moment, and then I'll repeat them for you. Who are the people who are suffering as you once suffered? This is your audience. What sort of hell are they stuck in? What kinds of emotions might they be experiencing right now? If you could say one thing to those people in their rock bottom moment, what would you say? This is your main message or takeaway. This is the primary lesson of your story. What obstacle or obstacles are they struggling to overcome? This is the theme of your story. Next, take yourself back to that feeling of powerlessness, looking up at what seemed like an insurmountable obstacle at the time. What memory comes up for you? That high tension, high stakes moment that sucks in your audience and gets them rooting for you and makes them want to know what happens next, that's your hook. Now go back to the beginning of that memory in your mind. Pull the thread of that tension and find where it stems from. This is your beginning. And then, what happened next? Did you float down the river of denial for a while, or did you immediately start to panic and look for the escape hatch? This is your middle. When you picture your own rock bottom moment, the moment when you realize that the only way out was through, what do you see? That moment is your climax. When the stakes are highest, the tension is highest, and the audience worries, despite knowing that you did make it out, that you might not. Think back to the specific steps you had to take, to the changes you had to make in order to get from that rock bottom moment to where you are now. This is your resolution. And what was the moment when things shifted for you, when the balance of power changed and you knew the worst was over? You could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you had hope that things could and would be better. This is your ending. For bonus points, see if you can bring things full circle and show the audience just how far you came by putting yourself into the same or a very similar situation as you were in way back at the beginning and handling it in a very different way. Now that you have the new tools and the new resilience that you gained from this experience, show the audience how this journey changed you. That in a nutshell, is your hero's journey. You will, of course, want to flesh it out with details that help us put ourselves in your place and feel the full emotional arc of that experience along with you. But be respectful of your listeners' time. Folks are busy. They have short attention spans, so be considerate and give them the goods without making them listen to a bunch of unnecessary exposition, aka setup or background information. As long as you've given them enough context to create emotional tension, you're good to go. 5 signs that this is the right story to tell and the right time to tell it. Number 1, you know who it's for. You have a clear, targetable audience in mind who are currently struggling with an obstacle that you've overcome. Number 2, it has a main message that you can stand behind and a theme you don't mind being associated with. Remember, authorship lends authority and experience expertise, so sharing a story on any subject will automatically set you up as an authority on that subject, for better or for worse. 3, it has a beginning, a middle, and most importantly, an end. If this story is still in progress and remains unresolved, it isn't a story yet. It's a lived experience that is probably best explored with a therapist or a trusted friend. I like to say that every story has a happy ending. It just depends on when you end the story. So give your audience hope by ending on a positive note. Number 4, it has some emotional charge to it, but doesn't trigger you to the point where you are no longer in present time when you recount it. What I mean by that is that sometimes when a story is still very fresh, when you tell that story, you get sucked back into it in a way that you're not in control of. Part of the power of storytelling is that it helps us to see our experiences as stories, things that could have happened to anyone. Putting your story out there as a story helps you get distance on it and move on by recognizing that that story's not yours anymore. It's for the audience now. Number 5, you have enough distance from it both emotionally and physically to see it as something that happened for you, not to you. You don't still feel victimized by this story. You see it as a strength that you now have. Everything in life can be divided into 2 categories: a good time or a good story. And sometimes, if you're in the right headspace, it can be both. Just remember, your story matters. Your message matters. And you, as the one who experienced it, are the only one who can tell this unique version of the story. But while telling our own story seems like it should be the easiest thing in the world, it takes tremendous courage and a good bit of work and skill. All creators need and deserve support, and that's what I'm here for. It would be my honor and my pleasure to help you bring this story, along with all the other beautiful buried treasure the universe has hidden within you, up to the surface and out into the waiting world. Your story is someone else's solution, so let's give it to them, shall we? Set up your free consultation today so we can get your unique, authentic voice resonating with the right audience. Are you ready to release the masterpiece that is you? I sure hope so, 'cause that's allowed.